Well, here's a few news articles. By the way, there's a workshop in Sunnyvale this Saturday, Wi-Fi security. That might be interesting. And you can attend in person or online. Moderna says that they're going to have a combination booster targeting more than one version of COVID available this fall, which seems like it's probably the right time. I've had 4 shots of the original Pfizer, which is from, I think, 2 years ago, and really probably no longer really the best thing. So what they expected, I think, all along, at least for a long time, is that they just have to keep making new versions of this, like the flu shot, every 6 months or a year. And Moderna appears to have a version that works, although it's still not completely tested and approved, but it looks good in early tests. This is kind of amazing. As I think most Americans now know, the Tesla self-driving is a whole lot less wonderful than it appears. And there are a lot of accidents with it and a lot of limitations with it. And even Tesla says it's called self-driving, but it doesn't really do the driving. You have to watch and compensate for it. But the British seem to be believing propaganda about the efficiency of self-driving. So even though you can't get a self-driving car in Britain yet, they've already changed their laws, saying that when they have a self-driving car, it'll be okay to watch TV while driving, although not to use your phone while driving because that might distract you. So this doesn't make much sense at all in many ways. And God only knows what's going to happen when they start distributing these so-called self-driving Teslas. Although apparently an awful lot of Americans are already just taking the self-driving Tesla and then just going to the back seat, playing video games, totally ignoring it, trusting it to drive, which appears to be a very bad idea. So East Bay Mud, the largest water agency, because we're in the 3rd drought year, they're planning to decide soon whether to start capping household water use. So unless we get a lot of rain pretty soon, we're headed for water rationing, which we've been through many times before, and likely to happen again. Had a couple good rainstorms a couple months ago, but not enough to refill our ice pack. So this one was pretty amazing to me. The Russian, in Russia, they just kill people, and they just lie about it, like they lie about everything. But I mean, anybody that threatens Putin at all, they just kill him, poison or jail any political rivals and anybody else that defends them. So 2 Russian gas company execs in 2 days have been found dead, with all their family dead too, with the family stabbed to death, and then the male of the house found dead with a gunshot to the head. And in both cases, they've said, oh, it's a murder-suicide. He killed his family and then himself. This seems highly unlikely. And I read this article. There's a couple more people this happened to recently, 2 that were associated with Russia and Putin's regime. So it's this is how Putin expresses his discontent with you. He sends people to murder you. And what I suspect it means is that his invasion of Ukraine and the resulting sanctions have begun to irritate some people. And they have begun to complain, and this has made it back to Putin, something of that order. Or Putin is blaming these guys for things. It's possible that some of the world's unhappiness with Putin's activities is getting to put some pressure on him and those around him. And he's responding with, like his hero Stalin, with purges. Stalin killed, around that time, 4 million Ukrainians by starving them to death, and 1 million of his own people in repeated purges of killing people in his own nation that he felt were disloyal to him. And Putin has often said he wants to be just like Stalin. So we'll see. It's a much smaller scale of him killing everybody around him than Stalin did, but still quite a lot of it happening, and with the thinnest of transparent excuses where everybody knows what's going on. They just pretend it was a murder. They pretend it was a suicide, but everybody knows exactly what's happening and exactly who did it. I just got this book. This is very interesting. I just got a contract to teach a corporation about web app pen testing, including API testing. So I'm getting this book. This book is very interesting. Shows you how to hack APIs. I've done a bit of it. And this has some good lab exercises, and it mentions some good vulnerable test APIs to practice on. So I got the book, and I'm going to be developing projects, hopefully inspired by the content here. So that looks like a fun thing to do. The APIs are the interface that take a request from either a web page or from a mobile device, and you send a request up to a server like saying, I would like the details of this user, and I'm including some kind of authentication token to prove that I'm in fact authorized to get that information, and then it sends you the information. And these things are very often if the stream is blurry, just refresh your browser. That happened to me. Just refresh the browser showing Twitch, and that cleared it up. I hope it does that for you too. Anyway, it is very common that APIs have serious vulnerabilities. One of the more common ones is unprotected, good, I'm glad it works, unprotected access, where you can make a request to do something that should require administrative privileges, like create a user or something, and in fact, you can make that request and it doesn't validate the authentication token. So you can do things that you shouldn't be allowed to do. And there are many, many other vulnerabilities. So it's a very important field, and I'm very pleased to have some more guidance. I've been sort of figuring out how to do it just by extending the techniques from web application testing, which is pretty good, but there are some tools specifically for that. And it's good to have a textbook to guide me into it. So the DeSantis administration in Florida recently declared that almost all math textbooks are forbidden, saying that those math textbooks contained, somebody wants the link of the book, let me put that up. So those math books contained politically improper content, like critical race theory. And they did not provide any examples of the objectionable content, and some people wondered, why did you do that? And why did you not provide any examples? And now it is coming out that in fact what he did was forbid all the manufacturers except the one to which he's tied, the one to which I think the governor of Texas produces. So it looks like a financial grift to force the education system in Florida to buy a textbook made by one of his allies who just wants to make money by selling it, which is, selling books is a very common way of laundering money on the Republican political side. This is why Donald Trump Jr. wrote a book that sold out. You write a book, you get your campaign to buy the book. Nobody actually wants to read it. Your campaign buys the book with donated money and you get the profits. So it's a way to sort of redirect funds to yourself. And this looks like he's doing that with the state's funds for education. CNN Plus was launched with $100 million of promotion, but it was the child of the CNN executive who just got forced out for having an affair with somebody at the company. And the new executives that took over do not believe in CNN Plus and wouldn't have launched it at all, and now they're pulling the plug. So within just a month, it's gone. So they wasted a ton of money promoting something that just failed. CNN has failed to position themselves to succeed in this era of streaming content and compete with sites like Netflix. And another casualty of this is Chris Wallace, who left his lucrative position at Fox News because they tempted him over to make a CNN Plus show, which is now a disaster and going to be canceled. So he left a high-paying job for a much inferior job at CNN and probably wishes in retrospect he had just stayed at Fox News. Hacking API apply to all software apps and networking firewalls? No, not really at all. Its APIs are only sometimes used. An API is where you run a web service and you allow other people to use your web service. For example, consider Facebook. You can go to facebook.com and view Facebook stuff right there. Or you can have some kind of third-party app that connects to Facebook. Like you can have a login with Facebook button, and then you're on some other app, and you click a button, and you send some limited data to Facebook, and it replies with some limited data back. That's an API. An API is when you allow other services to make requests into your web server. And it can also be local to inside your company, but most often it's cross companies. So you write an app on your phone, and when your phone loads some data, it sends a request to the server to get a little bit of data. That's all done with APIs. And so doesn't apply to all apps. Like simple apps are just all in one piece. And it doesn't have much have anything to do with firewalls. It's at a higher level than that. But it's a server that offers certain requests and certain responses, and the security issue is whether it really make sure that you're authorized to do what you're supposed to do there? There's a good question. All right, I think that's enough news.